Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, we're reviewing Locked On Texas Tech against the spread. Also, Joey McGuire gives an offensive line progress report and discusses how tempo is helping the offensive line effort week to week. And we'll hear from Baylor head coach Dave Aranda as he touches on what he's seeing this time around from the Red Raiders on film versus the last time he saw them prior to the McGuire takeover. Coming up next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right.
Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
You along for the ride again on Locked On Texas Tech, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And this episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Thanks to our friends at LinkedIn, the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. He's the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Great to be with you wherever, whenever, however you're dialing up the show on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Subscribe if you have not. We appreciate being your first listen each weekday. And we'll begin today's conversation, Chris, kind of flipping the coin a bit. There'll be a similar familiarity theme for both of these head coaches, but we're going to talk about the other guy. We talked about the Red Raider head coach, Joey McGuire, and his past with the Baylor Bear program yesterday. And, of course, when you talk about Dave Aranda, you're talking about 6 degrees or fewer of separation between Coach Aranda and the Red Raider program. Spent time on campus as a part of the staff, pursued a graduate degree here. He's just as familiar with this one as I would imagine Joey McGuire is with his, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time since Dave Aranda was in Lubbock, Texas, but he was, I think it was on Mike Leach's initial coaching staff or charter staff, I guess is the correct term. But yeah, he has spent and lived in Lubbock, Texas before. And it's maybe been that long since Baylor won a game here. I don't know. It's been a long time.
It's been quite some time. Coach Aranda did visit with the media in Waco about some memories of what the environment can be like in West Texas.
They have passionate fans. I think it gets to be loud. I remember when I was there, like the frozen tortillas, and just, I think it's a fun place to play. I think you get into college athletics to be in environments where, it means something to people, and you're playing for something, something's at stake, and it all kind of matters and everything, and so. That's going to be the case coming up Saturday night.
Namaste.
Very soothing. Very soothing. And I think the frozen tortilla is an old wives' tale, unless he's talking about a Choco Taco, which is also very soothing.
I'm sure people do, maybe freeze them, but I don't know if I'm never over there close enough to the student section. I see them flying around and, but yeah, it's funny because I think a lot of people probably have forgotten or just didn't know that he was here. And you look at that coaching staff way back when, and that Mike had, and there's a lot of guys that spent time as a head coach and are still doing so on that initial staff. But yeah, he was. I think Coach Aranda was just here for the one season, and then he ended up going somewhere else. Probably didn't like work until 3 or 4 in the morning every night. I don't get the sense that Dave Aranda is like a 3 or 4 in the morning kind of guy. He seems to be an early to bed, early to rise guy to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no idea. I was watching some of the video though of him in a Tech polo on the Red Raider sideline earlier today, and the hair level pretty much low always. Like, I don't know that it's changed any. It just wasn't there then, and it's not really there now. So I don't know what that says about it. Maybe it was darker then if it would have been there, and it would be silver now if it were to be there. But it's not. And I'm sure there's some Zen philosophy about not getting caught up in the things that aren't actually here. What is here? Well, now it's a different version of Red Raider football, certainly than one he remembers at that time, Chris. But Also, maybe just compared to what the Red Raiders were last time around when he most recently saw them. Coach Aranda was asked about some differences from a season ago to now and what he's seeing from Texas Tech.
Their level of effort is really good, and I think it just speaks to their coaches and everything. And when you watch them play, their effort's strong, and I think offensively they play really fast. Their tempo, and they've had a few different quarterbacks in there, but they've all found ways to get the offense to work off the particular trait of the guy that's there. And then I think defensive wise, a lot of pressure, a lot of stunts, a lot of blitzes, not a lot of defenses that look the same. There's a bunch kind of being thrown at you, and so you've got to prepare for kind of some chaos with some speed to back it up, and so it makes it where you've got your work cut out for you.
Yeah, I think it's because he's talking about the last time he saw this program, which was the last regular season game, I believe, for Baylor last year, and the Red Raiders almost pulled that off. That was Jonathan Garibay, kicks, I think it was around 49, 52 yards, somewhere around there, and tries to kick that field goal, and it's going to send it to overtime, I believe. But I think it's a credit to, and again, we've discussed this on previous shows, but a lot of mutual respect between that Baylor staff and this Texas Tech staff. Nobody's really jabbed at anybody. I think there's a lot of feel good. In fact, you hear Coach Aranda talk about, man, I wish, that they do really well, except for this Saturday. They're good. They're good people. And so, yeah, a lot of mutual respect. But I think Aranda nails it there in that the effort level jumps out to opposing coaches about this Texas Tech team. I think I do. It's funny. This is the third head coach I believe I've heard say about your defense. They just throw so much at you and all that. Whereas if you hear Tim DeRuyter talk about it, it's like, we're really not. We're just kind of making people think that. And I think that's kind of a fun dynamic when you hear Tim DeRuyter kind of talking about the way they coach it and teach it, that it's supposed to look like it's a whole bunch of different things and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And yet for Tim, it's very simple. And for his guys, it's been very simple. But I think it's fascinating listening to what opposing coaches kind of see as they view game film and everything, or tape or whatever on the opposition. But and Dave, just to correct you there, it's not just a few quarterbacks; it's three. Yeah, three quarterbacks. We're all well aware, man.
Well, I thought a few was three. Couple few, quattro few.
Yeah,
I don't know.
A few. Well, like almost specific. Like all of them. Yeah,
all
like
of them,
they've played a few quarterbacks. No, they've played all of their quarterbacks.
All the ones we've tried so far. We had to try so far. We've tried out.
That's right.
I'm wondering, Chris, is this the familiarity between the two head coaches? I don't know so much that I'm viewing it as like a chess match where they know like tendencies or things like that, because I kind of view, I'm sure they do in a way, but I view these coaches more so as, I don't know. They're not like micromanagers, are they? I don't view Coach McGuire that way. What do you know of Dave Aranda and kind of the presence there? Is he a let his coordinators coordinate? Is he how do you see the familiarity between the two head coaches playing out? Because I don't think it's exactly like, well, one's an OC, one's a DC. So it's like this chess match. But obviously there's something going on between the years that has to do with tells or traits with the other guy.
They're both defensive guys. I mean, with their background, that's what they have been. And I think, Aranda is very much a process guy. He's very much, even keel. I know, shocker. But that's what he's about. And I think that whereas Joey in some ways is really opposite of that. He's an energy guy. He's very outgoing, which is what makes him such a good recruiter and a motivator. I think Aranda just does it differently, and it clearly worked because they won a Big 12 championship with it. But I don't think that they get in everybody's business. I think they let each side of the ball kind of do their thing. But I think they're both very involved too, because I've seen different CEO types kind of not do as much, and I think they're both very much involved with all aspects of their programs. But at the end of the day, they're both very much defensive minded, but they also know. I think Joey probably knows more about Aranda than vice versa on how the program is run and with whatever we're talking about, because Aranda doesn't know exactly how Joey's running his program here, whereas I think for the most part there's probably been some changes, but Coach McGuire is well aware of how Coach Aranda kind of runs his program or his thought processes on different things, and so that part is, I don't know, probably a slight advantage to Joey.
I mean, Joey's never run one. So before now, like everything he's putting on film is being put on film for the first time, at least on the college level. I think that's a good point, and maybe could be something slightly for Texas Tech to take advantage of.
And here's the other thing that's fascinating. If they both subscribe to the same analytics firm, which is like you outsource that, it's a third party, isn't the other one going to know because they both are very much go for it on fourth down. I mean, I think Texas Tech has gone for it just under 30 times, I think, on the year, and I think Baylor's in the mid 20s, around 25, I think, attempts, maybe slightly less than that. Aren't they both going to know what the other's doing if that is indeed the case?
Probably so.
Which is going to be interesting, and you're also going to know when the other one doesn't really follow the book, because I think
are they getting scared? Are they getting nervous over there? Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, in some of those situations, I'm thinking, well, it's not necessarily the surprise or whatever that's making it successful. It's you kicking the other team's ass at the line of scrimmage on that fourth down that might make it successful. But there in that moment, if they're backing off of something where normally
they would go for it.
What a head game you might get yourself into.
It tells you the thought process. Okay, they're not going to be as aggressive today, or they're trying to play the long game, or they're trying to play field position. I mean, whatever. So I don't know if they do, subscribe to the same service and use the same firm, but I know Baylor uses somebody, because and Joey does too. So that part will kind of be fascinating.
No doubt about it. Coming up ahead on Locked On Texas Tech, we'll get back to some thoughts from Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire. I want an offensive line progress report to be spent some time upon. And also, I think a part of that offensive line conversation that maybe gets overlooked as it relates to tempo and what they feel like they've been able to do to help the offensive line by playing faster offensively. And we're also reviewing Locked On Texas Tech against the spread. Any daylight between Chris Level and myself now, because we've been like a junior high couple at a dance where the teacher's putting the ruler there saying, I want to see some daylight. I want to see some daylight. But we've been so close in the standings, we refuse to move apart. What a strange analogy. And now we're all very uncomfortable. So what a great time to spin on in to talking about our friends at LinkedIn Jobs, because LinkedIn Jobs is helping you find the right candidates for your job faster. And that's why small businesses are rating LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs will help you find those candidates you want to talk to quicker than anybody, anywhere. Did you know every week over 40 million job seekers are visiting LinkedIn? So that is the place to be if you got the job and need the employee. Shout out to the unintentional rhyme master. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege right now. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And also our friend Armen Williams here to answer the question you may be asking yourself. Are you paying too much for your business services? Armen Williams with Schooley Mitchell, North America's #1 cost reduction company, is here to find out exactly that. And Chris, he's doing it left and right for businesses all over, near and far, man.
Well, everything's on the rise. He wants to help Red Raiders just like you, the folks that are listening to us now. I mean, a couple of things. One, he just saved an HVAC company about 40% on their merchant services expense.
Yeah.
That equaled about $22,000 in a year's total. So I mean, that's real money. The other thing is, and I hadn't thought about this, but so many businesses out there use credit card processing. If you're a point of sale and all that stuff, when you use credit card, I mean, they take a bit of a percentage there, and he can go through all that and make sure you're getting the lowest rate possible from your credit card companies that you're using to, in your point of sales and all that stuff. If you're a retail business or whatever, so yeah, just go check out our man Armen, man. Good dude. You see him smiling at you right there if you're watching this on YouTube. And he just wants to help you, man. Go check him out. Schooley Mitchell. SaveWithArmen.com.
I've got to get one of my favorite Mexican food restaurants in touch with Armen Williams so they'll stop hitting me with that credit card processing fee. It's not my bill. It's not my bill. And maybe if Armen Williams was helping that out, they wouldn't pass it on to me and I could go eat there more often. Listen up. You think I'm talking to you. You're the one. SaveWithArmen.com is the website you need to hit up because Armen and Schooley Mitchell can save you money without sacrificing service and save time, which is money, without increasing your payroll. SaveWithArmen.com, SaveWithArmen.com. Hit up the website today. There's no upfront cost. It just starts with a free analysis, and then Armen shares in any savings you might be able to find. And on average, just on average, essential business services can be reduced cost-wise by 28%. So see what he can do for you today and your business as you gear up for 2023 at SaveWithArmen.com. Like a Big Earn vibe almost at the beginning of that L.O.T.T showdown or something. Right. It's Locked On Texas Tech, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Are you team?
That gave me a Boogie Nights kind of feel, a vibe right there. That music, yeah, great film. Go check it out.
Really?
Yeah,
great film.
Hey man.
Ain't exactly Citizen Kane now.
Adults only, though. Adults only.
Citizen Kane sucked, though. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
That movie was totally boring, and they're asking us at the end in the classroom.
Boogie Nights wasn't.
So what was Rosebud? I don't freaking know. And when I learned it was a wagon, I still didn't get it. Why do you care so much about it? It was a wagon, right? I won't tell you what they asked us in class at the end of Boogie Nights, because it wasn't a question. It was a statement. Don't tell anyone. I'll let you guys watch this. Now let's take the paper off of the windows and go on about our day. Word to Dirk Ziegler. All right, yes. Locked On Texas Tech against the spread has never been set up in a more compelling way. Chris, you and I have been fairly competitive, at least with one another. Only, what do we have, a 2-game separation and then down to a 1-game separation, I believe, as we rolled into the last time around. And that story eventually would remain the same. Only you and I could do this way. I thought we were going to wind up with somebody really gaining some ground or establishing further separation here, because we went almost opposite on all the picks. The only one we agreed on was Kansas State. Well, we both lost it. And otherwise, out of the 5 games that we picked, we find a way to go 2-3. And we remain 1 game apart. Here's how it shook out. I was a loser. You were a winner. I'm sorry, swap that. You were a loser. I was a winner with Oregon and UCLA. The Ducks only a 6-point favorite. Those Ducks were flying together, baby. The spirit of Gordon Bombay in the house, 45-30 as they waxed the Bruins. Alabama, Mississippi State, you won it. I lost it. Alabama, a 21-point favorite there. They win by 24. Most hilarious part of that ball game was the garbage time touchdown, wasn't it? Which was Mississippi State's first.
Uncle
like
Nick,
6 years.
Uncle Nick was pissed. Yeah, he was not happy. And if you haven't seen this, there were so many drop passes by Mississippi State in that game that Mike Leach has gone on a rant this week talking about how he's worried about his players' grandkids. Yes, that's what he said. And he kind of referenced the Tyrannosaurus Rex because they just don't have hands right now in Starkville. So yeah, you'd have to to connect the dots. You just have to go listen to it and hear his rant. But there were some drop passes. He's frustrated. He wants to make sure that people in Starkville do have hands. The guys that play for Mississippi State, but they didn't use them. They didn't use them well in Tuscaloosa.
Even if they had the hands, they had those alligator arms, those T-Rex arms.
Yes.
That's why I was so upset he couldn't reach anything in the back of the fridge. Baylor, Kansas, you were a winner here. I was a loser. This was one of the more interesting ones as it pertained to the number, Chris, that we picked here this weekend, because Baylor was a 10-point favorite. They wind up winning by 12. And for some reason, my Saturday at one brief moment turned into a very, very pitiful experience of just begging Kansas to score a few more points. And that was the worst part of my day. As you took that win there, you rolled with the Bears. and they won at 35-23 before they head to Lubbock, of course.
Yeah, Kansas is turning into a pumpkin right now, I think, right before our eyes, man. And I want you to know, man, I love this exercise. I love talking about games and who I think it's going to win. It just sucks we have to keep record of it. And we attach a point spread to it because this has been a very difficult exercise for you and I. And the next game that you're going to get to, freaking – this, and there's never going to be one, but this.
All right, we're already starting out with a freaking for this one. I like where we're going.
Yeah, and I dropped something else if I felt like I was allowed to.
Yeah.
I wish there was some sort of injury report in college football because, man, I was blindsided by Chris freaking Kleiman. There's the second friggin' third one. Because, I mean, all of his guys are hurt and nobody knows. And it's like they're going through warm-ups. They're going to play for like a series and then they're shut down. Next thing I know, they're playing 3 quarterbacks in the same game because they're all in the tent. You got somebody over there, the starting quarterback who looked like a Heisman Trophy candidate a few weeks ago. He just sitting over there with his arms crossed. I don't know what's wrong with him. Okay. They send Deuce Vaughn to the locker room. Then he comes back out. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, but bottom line is it's been a blessed season for Sonny Dykes' TCU Horned Frogs. And sometimes, man, it's better to be lucky than good. But, man,
for sure.
Where are the Red Raiders' luck there? Why can't you face Kansas State? And their field goal kicker missed 2 of them. Kansas State doesn't make any special teams mistakes until they show up in Fort Worth, Texas with all their injuries. And it's because I picked them. I just know it. It's very frustrating to me.
Well, I was going to say earlier when you were talking about the Kansas Jayhawks that Texas Christian, next entry on the pumpkin list because midnight is going to strike. I saw a chart that showed that Texas Tech, unique among almost all Big 12 teams, and maybe they were one of 10, had an easier schedule as compared to the schedule that is already in their rear view. You know, there's like, I don't know, somebody with glasses taped together that's working up all these data points. Anyway, Texas Tech was kind of in an exciting position, as we all kind of know, given what this second half slate looks like compared to 5 straight against top 25 opponents at that time in the first half. But you can make a guess as to one of the teams that was close to on the opposite end of that chart, and it was the Horned Frogs of Texas Christian. They've got some heavy lifting, obviously, still yet to come, and I think they're back to a pumpkin sooner rather than later. But, hell, they've already done enough work, Chris, to have called it a good season in year 1 under Sonny Dykes. So it's all like house money, I would imagine, for Frog fans, if you could ever actually find one by this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, they've played 4 ranked teams in a row, won all those games. They're already bowl eligible.
Amazing.
They've got the Red Raiders coming up in Fort Worth. Their interesting game is going to be when they go to Austin and play Texas in the Gary Patterson Bowl. That one's going to be interesting. And but they played Oklahoma State, they played Kansas State, they've already played Oklahoma, they've already put and so Iowa State's still on the schedule. But it's going to be interesting to see if TCU can kind of maintain it. And again, there's no bye weeks, and they're starting to take on water as far as injuries go a little bit. But I mean, it's an impressive stretch, man. I mean,
no doubt
they shouldn't apologize to anybody for catching a break here and there. They just keep figuring out a way to take advantage of it because some teams wouldn't be good enough to do that. So because that game was 28-10 at one point, and then the next thing you know, it looks like Kansas State has 0 chance to win this game, just not enough offense. And I just wish that the Red Raiders could have seen that version of the old Wildcats, but such is life.
Only thing they got to apologize for is these unis, for crying out loud. At least you took the red out of them this last time around. What are these things?
Did you know that a horned frog gets pissed, man? That blood comes out of its eyes. That's I don't know if you knew that. I don't know if you knew that, Calvin. I don't know.
Could you just maybe put on something that's purple and white, for crying out loud? Not everybody can be black. Not everyone can have a black uniform. Even where am I going now? This is a totally different rant. I want to get to this one because you're talking about, like, why can't Texas Tech face these teams at this point or that point when some bad luck is befalling them? And we talked about this team in a similar way last time around. And that was the Oklahoma State Cowboys, who had a defensive lineman that was just saying sayonara and this stuff. Texas is a favorite on the road. It was bizarre, but this is where I was able to pick up an elusive win because I went with the Pokes.
And I'm an idiot.
Wild game.
I'm an idiot. I mean,
41-34, Chris, is
the power ranking is a farce. my pick. I mean, I just they don't even sit out there for their school song, for goodness sakes. I mean, that was
delicious.
They totally quit. They just tapped out.
The head coach said he was upset, and that's why he didn't sing the song. Look, the song sucks, so I get why you don't want to sing the song over and over. An ode to Asian enslavement as they built a railroad across this great land. I don't know why they continue to prop that song up. We should probably have an investigation, maybe get a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer on the scene. Stat! But, Chris, this is just too delicious here. Steve Sarkisian, his tenure was over when he was hired, was an insane name to come out of the mouth of someone choosing a head coach for the Texas Longhorns. So we already knew that. No surprise here. And I'm just wondering how thrilling the ride will be now as they soon to come ruin Jeff Traylor. So I can't wait to get on that one and see how that one spirals out of control.
They fired Tom Herman and his team was ranked. I mean, they fired him and his team was ranked.
Hey, question for you. You mentioned the name already, Gary Patterson Bowl. Is that a dumb idea? Is that a dumb idea for somebody at Texas to think, hey, how about this?
Let me offer this up to you. Okay. Does it hurt his case that TCU is 7-0? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
TCU was bad last year, man. They were not very good. They got after the Red Raiders. Don't get me wrong, but I mean overall they were not good. They kind of taken a dip as a program. I'm just saying. I've wondered that as that's played out because that was the theory in the summer. Hey man, if Sark screws this up, man. They're going to go to Gary Patterson. He's right over there and all that. But I just, as Texas is kind of not really been able to get into a rhythm and they can't win on the road. I think they're 1-6 in their last 7 road games, I believe I heard. And then you look at TCU just lighting it up and it's largely the same roster. I don't know. It just makes me kind of wonder about, the scenario there. And I don't think they're going to make a move with Sarkisian unless he just loses out or anything. But it's a matter of time. I think you're dead on. And Quinn Ewers, man, he was a difference in the game. It was that he just wasn't very good, and that they choose not to hand it to an NFL running back in Bijan Robinson. It's like when he's at home, it's like there's some NIL deal. Hey man, I need like 20 plus carries when we're at home, and when I drive that Aston Martin out of Austin, Texas, though. You're only handing it to me 10. I don't need any more tread on these tires. I don't know what's going on there, but they just forget about they have a stable of them and he just ignores them. It makes me really sad, man. I'm telling you.
Let's not get bogged down in the details, Chris, because it's glorious no matter what the details.
There's no doubt.
Like.
The
result is so tasty. Thank you to Chris Del Conte, who's still wearing mom jeans today somewhere. Santa Barbara legend. I'm sure you're doing a great job. And thank you to Steve Sarkisian and the Aston Martini gang for these laughs, because it has truly been a blessing here in West Texas. I could have never imagined we'd get it on their way out of the Big 12 conference. So I just want to say how much I appreciate that. That's how it breaks down. We go different ways to do it, but we both wind up 2 and 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's
overall records. You want it?
Not really, because I know
you're going to say no. I regretted asking you that.
I know it's below 500, so I'm not proud of it. So I love discussing these games. I just, like I said, I hate it that you keep track.
Big Handsome, 8-12-1. Myself, 9-11-1. Never forget, Osama your mama Lama. And that's how she shakes out this week. We're back at it to wrap up the week, picking again, Locked on Texas Tech against the spread, and you can join it always when we get to this week's slate of games coming up on Friday. Within the YouTube comments, there's got to be somebody out there with a gambling pulse. My only solace is that one of my wins, Ducks and Bruins, came as a result of the analysis of wildlife attack YouTube videos. So I think I'm going to dive heavier into that, Chris, this time around, because that was one of the rare spots I found some success. And maybe I should link you on a few. You want to?
I don't hate it. I mean, it's like picking like you get to your NCAA tournament bracket. It's like, you know what? I just like in the office pool. It's like the ladies like, you know what? I'm going to go with my favorite colors.
That's
and
right.
And then they end up they just up crushing everybody. So yeah, I mean, sheesh.
That was an offensive conversation. Offensive, pardon me. And coming up next, we're getting to an offensive line conversation because they were a heavy topic of conversation early in this season. Kind of been a little quieter, I guess, even though you were missing a starting right tackle. Some things to discuss there after the most recent outing. We'll get an offensive line progress report from Joey McGuire. And I want to discuss tempo and apparently how it is helping the effort up front for the offensive line. Coming up next on Locked On Texas Tech. But first, back to our friends at Sweat Block. Block and sweat, block and odor, giving you back your life, block and sweat haters. Is that a thing? I think so. You ever been on the receiving end of sweatchedist? Is that a thing? Sounds like that could also be a thing. Sweat haters in your life, block them up with Sweat Block. It's your little secret to confidence. The Sweat Block wipes work for up to 7 days per use. So apply them on a Sunday. You're dry all week long. Get your life back with Sweat Block. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweat Block and save 20% with our promo code Locked On at sweatblock.com today. That's 20% you can save with the promo code Locked On at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon.
And it would be a great stocking stuffer for your buddies that you play a pickup game with. Okay. I mean, think about it. Hey, boys, I'm tired of rubbing up against you, man. Down in the post, man. Here you go. Yeah. So
I'm thinking of Ben Stiller now in a shirts and skins game.
Exactly.
Once upon a time.
Yes.
If that guy had Sweat Block, that scene wouldn't have been funny. So Hollywood Magic, not a fan of Sweat Block, but we are because they're black and sweat, giving you your confidence back at sweatblock.com. Back in the saddle with you on Locked On Texas Tech, worldwide, intergalactically even, on the Locked On Podcast Network. What up, Space Station? Cosmonauts? I don't know who's there right now, but greetings, salutations. On YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts, subscribe. And then tell a friend to subscribe. We appreciate those out there who have already done so. As we wrap up this episode, want to get back to Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire, Chris, because he touched on something obviously that's highly interesting to any Red Raider football fan that wants to know what makes the wheel turn. That's trench work, but specifically here along the offensive line. Been pretty reliable up front defensively. You obviously started out as a work in progress, very much so on the offensive line. That work got a little tougher as you were down a starting right tackle in Monroe Mills against West Virginia, but thought it was a decent effort. We'll hear from Coach McGuire on his take at this point in the season on the offensive line. And also I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what he describes here as it relates to tempo and that actually being something maybe contrary to some thought for a fan. Think about big guys moving fast, but it actually could be something that is helping out their offensive line. Here's Coach McGuire.
We played better. I think we gave up one sack again. The sack that we gave up was an all-out blitz, and they got home. I thought that we were pressured, but it was less and less. I definitely think that the tempo is helping them, because our guys are in good shape, and whenever it comes to offensive line and tempo, it's a little bit easier than defensive line and tempo. You're running a lot more in the defensive line, so a tempo can really affect you. And I think we're seeing that, and I think it's helping the offensive line. I thought Matt Keeler played well. Dennis Wilburn probably had his best game. Landon Peterson, had a real edge to him, and so I was really, really happy with those guys. We got to, just keep building. We got to get better. But I think, Kitley did a really good job with the plan that he had, and as long as we're running or catching the football to where we can continue to tempo, then we're going to try to go as fast as we can. We're going to try to go even faster Saturday night. Right now, we are, I think, leading the nation in plays per game. We're at 96 plays per game. And, again, we're going to try to hit over 100. I think that's one thing in the last two games that's helped our offense and definitely helped our offensive line is, the amount of time that we can keep people on the field tempo-wise. And I do feel like our guys are in really good shape to handle that.
So that's part of why you are doing this, is to protect that offensive line or not put them in such a bind. You know where you're at up front, and it's not the best group, it's not the most dominant group, but this is something that they have leaned on because you only have to block for just a few seconds, and you don't have to hold blocks for a long period of time. And I think that over the course of the game, because when you think about it in these terms. When you have your offense against the opposing defense, the only players that are playing pretty much every snap of those matchups are your quarterback and those 5 offensive linemen. Everybody else is at some point subbed out a bit. You're rotating running backs and wideouts and tight ends and all that. Everybody on defense at some point is rotating most of their guys. There may be a few exceptions on defense where they're like, okay, he stays out there all the time, but you get what I'm saying. So these guys are in good shape. I think it puts them in a position to succeed, which is really what coaching is. It's like, okay, what can we do that allows us to be successful and puts these guys in a position to succeed? And when you're asking guys that only have to hold block, because here's what it requires. Your quarterback, if he gets rid of the ball quickly, or if he'll just get rid of it, period, and throw it in the stands, okay, and not hold it and take a sack. And if you can just get those first downs, that's what allows you to keep going. It's where you screw up 3rd and 4th down, or you screw up on 1st and 2nd down, I guess, and where you're behind the chains, and it makes it easier or makes it tougher on yourself if you're sitting there in 2nd and 14 or something. So avoiding negative plays, I guess, is my point. If you stay on schedule, as they say, or ahead of the chains and continue to move, it allows you to tempo teams. But I think it's kind of been fascinating to see. But this is what Barron is extremely comfortable with. This is where he is at his best and getting rid of the ball quick and just kind of flicking it out there and doing some different things. And Coach Kitley has kind of changed the dynamics of the offense to kind of build it around this kind of style. And it's kind of fascinating to see how fast they are going. And according to the head coach, going to try to go even faster. I don't know if I would have said that to if it was me, because I'd want, I don't know, Baylor guessing just a little bit, but I guess he's like, screw it, I don't care. This is what we're doing. Good luck trying to stop it.
Well, I think it kind of puts a different context on tempo, possibly, than some are thinking about it, certainly than I've thought about it the majority of the time, in that I kind of just associate it with the clock and, getting back to the line of scrimmage, snapping it really quickly. But that doesn't really sound like that's what it has to be to me. It's more so that rhythmic, get the ball out. Yep. On the play, get into that rhythm, as opposed to just breakneck speed, run up to the line of scrimmage and get it snapped and go. I know there's probably some of that factors in, but am I describing that close to accurate, or how much does time between the play actually factor in? Because it almost sounds like it's all about that quarterback rhythm in the pocket more so.
It is, but here's you talk to some of these kids, because I'm like, it's kind of I try to learn. Okay, like how is this working? What's the reasoning, or what? How can y'all go faster? That's a question I think it's very fair to ask. Okay, how is it possible to go faster? A lot of them will tell you so much of your ability to go fast depends on the officiating crew. Some officiating crews will spot the ball quicker and then get out of the way faster than others will. And that is kind of holds you up, or keeps you sitting there holding your water when you're ready to go and all that stuff. I think, too, it's been fascinating to listen to some of them talk about the cramping and the body language on the opposition kind of start to show as the games go along, because they can't quite keep up, or they can't convey their defensive signals fast enough. And so, because from your standpoint, if you're running a tempo play, I think that Coach Kitley has made it very simple in that he's sending in kind of, okay, here's the general idea about what we're doing on the tempo play. And it's basically, you're telling everybody whether you're, going to zone block, whether you're going to do, whether it's going to be a pass or whatever it is, but it's very simple. And I think there's a ton of plays they can run out of that tempo stuff, because, I mean, they just build on each other. But and here's what else you need, Casey. I don't think enough people have talked about this. Luckily, you have an older defensive coordinator, and one that's a veteran coach, and Tim DeRuyter, that, because some guys would, if they were a young defensive coordinator, they may throw up the stop sign and like cause problems and go, man, you are jacking up our stats. You're potentially giving us the ball as far as starting field position, and it's awful. Like, you're putting us in a bind, because we've heard that around here before. Like, how much damage are you doing to your own defense because they may have to run back out there? They spend so much more time out there. You're putting them in a bind. DeRuyter doesn't care. He believes in the analytical part of it. He knows it's going to work out more often than not, believes in the percentages. And so you hear about complementary football, but nobody talks about coaches being okay with each other and that the way that they're all on the same page and being okay with that. Because if it was a DC trying to get his start and it was a much younger guy, he may be like, hey, man, what are you trying to do to me? I'm never moving up in this profession.
Well,
yeah, the ball, my defense is going to go out there and I got to defend only 35 yards instead of 75.
It's also got to do something with the defense stinking or being good. Coach DeRuyter's defense is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
yep.
I was always so frustrated with Cliff Kingsbury because it was like he never considered the fact that he needed to compensate for his atrocious defenses. So that wasn't complimentary football. So I think there's another angle on that as well, young or old defensive coordinator, where you're saying, well, these guys can overcome whatever this does to them because they're so good, where otherwise that just seems stupid to say, well, I'm doing it anyway. Best of luck to the defense. I'm doing it anyway. You've got to be, I think, at least aware of what you're doing to those guys. And that's kind of the back and forth. And we've got into it on other episodes, and we won't do it in full here today, Chris. But that's the back and forth on the going for it on fourth down. Do you go for it less because you've got a defense that can actually flip the field and help you capitalize on that? Or do you go for it more because you've got a good defense that'll bail you out if it doesn't work? I guess it's just up to the guy that's making the calls, and that ain't me. But that's kind of the question to me with the defense like Coach DeRuyter's. It gives you some options, and they go one way or another. The tempo thing is really interesting to me because I've always just been annoyed by tempo for tempo's sake. I felt like you probably generated more mistakes on your part than you did on the defensive part. It's like, dude, if you're not good enough with just the 11 guys to move them physically, what's tempo going to do for you? So like NASCAR and all that stuff, I just got very annoyed by it all. And I mean, you weren't any good, so there are plenty of things to be annoyed by.
Yeah,
but this is a different spin on how I viewed it. I got to be honest.
At times, it seems gimmicky, and because David Yost did it here, and your numbers were pretty good, but you just weren't winning enough football games. And I don't know if this is specifically why you're winning football games. I think there's a variety of different things, but I was not. I'll be honest with you. I was not expecting you to be like this before the season started. If we would have had this conversation in August, I would have told you, yeah. I mean, I think Kitley is kind of like at times, when and you can speed it up, or hey, when you don't need it, you slow it down and all those things. But I think that the fact they're majoring in it right now probably has a lot to do with the group up front. It has to do with the quarterback, what he's comfortable with, and it appears to be working. The other thing, too, is I think that's factored into it. How many times on these shows have we talked about how good the opposition's defensive front is? Everybody in the Big 12 is loaded up front on defense, it seems like. This also negates some of that, too. So, like, why would we try to bang our head against the wall repeatedly when it's like kind of our weakness, kind of their strength? It may not work. So let's give ourselves a schematic advantage. Let's get rid of the ball quick, get it on the perimeter, and tire some people out. Because let me tell you, Baylor's like they've got, I think there's like some 6'4", 350-pound dudes up front, okay, on Baylor's defense. So guess what? Can those guys – and Texas had some too. Can those guys sit out there and mostly Texas Heat and handle this for 100 plays? No. At some point, you're just not you're just not the same player. You just can't give that kind of effort. And if I only got to try to hold this guy off for 2 seconds as opposed to 5, I mean, you just increase your margin for error, I think, on offense.
Yeah, and we had a really astute Locked On Texas Tech listener that was describing the play I touched on earlier in the week with Nehemiah Martinez motioning into the backfield, taking a handoff as a running back. And I don't know what the truth is, but there was a listener that was describing that essentially that is a byproduct
of tempo.
Of tempo, but of tempo, avoiding
so you don't
substitutions,
have to sub.
Not giving the defense a chance. Mm-hmm. It's an audible automatic for Martinez or whoever's in that spot, yada, yada, yada. All of that in the name of tempo. So it's kind of interesting to see what that results in. And sometimes the Tech is able to take advantage of it. we'll continue to keep a close eye on it because I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, it's going to continue to be a part of what you're doing, right?
If Barron is your quarterback and you're going against a good defensive front and you're continue to be somewhat successful here, this is what you're going to do. And you're right. I mean, the commenter there is dead on in that when you have some positionless type guys, we can still run our full playbook even if we don't have the right kind of personnel in the game that we would necessarily prefer. We're just going to change it. And Nehemiah is a perfect, say you had somebody, you didn't have a back in there and you went empty and Taj and Sir Roderick are standing over there. I mean, well, he can move back to running back like he did. And yeah, there's a variety of different things you can do with him. And Xavier White's the same way. Miles Price is the same way. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Miles Price take a handoff at some level at some point too.
What would Hank Stram and Lombardi think about all this? I mean, it's just amazing.
Hank Stram would say we're just trying to matriculate the ball down the field, man. That's what he would say.
But that's one of the really cool evolutions of football, I think. A lot of it, again, just annoys me because I think the same things still win football games, and guys that try to reinvent the wheel crack me up. But that's one of the cool evolutions in that people have adapted and been like, it's not positionless, obviously, but in some situations for a moment, it's kind of positionless, and hey, we're going to use this guy here. We're going to use this guy there.
And Casey, you are now kind of an outlier. There's not really anybody in the Big 12 that's doing this as much. I mean, you've kind of almost everybody corrected, and now everybody's kind of maybe starting to do some different things now because all the defenses now are built to kind of stop the run. That's why everybody's so good up front because it became kind of somewhat of a smash mouth league. I mean, nobody's throwing it 50 times in the league anymore except for you. I mean, yeah, you get some, teams that are throwing. I mean, I guess Quinn Ewers threw it 50 times last week, but they were behind. There's a few exceptions, but not on a regular basis. And you're kind of, this is what, and again, I want to be careful here in saying that this is what Zach Kitley is going to do just here going forward. I think maybe if you get better up front, as Barron gets more experience or whoever's playing quarterback for you, I think you may tweak it and do some different things. But right now, this is working, so why mess with it?
No doubt about it. And before we're out of here, how about one more progress report?
I like to ride my horse and shoot my gun.
We're back at Jones Stadium. We were back at Jones Stadium last week, which means we have another run of the Masked Rider in year one for
Centennial Champion.
Hell, I'd already forgotten the name. Forgotten the name.
Centennial Champion. Yes.
To let you know where my grade is this week. Now, Chris, I had a nephew at the game with me, raising him right, trying to get him into his Red Raider ways, and he's taken to it pretty good. But I'm like pumping up the horse. I mean, I'm in the stands for the first time to see the freaking horse, and I don't know how long. But I get there because I'm thinking he needs to see this. This is part of what got me hooked as a kid. He's like 6. So we get up there, we get in there, we're watching all the formation and all the fall-de-raw there before the game. I'm like, all right, here's the horse. Now watch this. This son of a gun's going to take off here in a minute. Keep an eye on him. Well, here comes the takeoff moment. Keep an eye on him. And I could have used a sundial. I'm going C, man. I'm just all down on it right now. What's going on, Centennial Champion? Why will you not run? Have we not got a woman that'll sink spur in you? What is happening? Because the nephew said, and I quote, I thought it'd be faster. Yes. Yes, we all did, my friend. Come on, man. The equine grading scale, once again, it's passing. The horse was not put down. The rider is safe. It did make it to the other end of the field. It didn't leave the team like was a problem earlier. But I'm just going C, man. C will equal a degree, I guess, is all I can say here. How you feeling on the sideline? Did you catch that this week?
I did not see it. I will tell you there was not any sort of
collision
early on in the season. There was a brush with greatness there. I mean, they were trying to bump up on me, man, and hold me off. But there was no such incident this time. So I'll go C. I'll agree with you. I did not see the run out. I'll be honest with you. I've kind of forgotten about it, but
right. And how could that happen?
Yeah.
It's the Masked Rider. I mean, that's dynamite and boots once upon a time. And they were throwing around this picture this week of a young Baron Morton in a picture. This is how we got the guy. He's in a picture with the outlaw dude. Handlebar mustache, reins in the mouth, double guns up. That's how we got Baron Morton. We're never going to get another good quarterback with these types of riders. I mean, I don't get it. When did we get to only chicks who look like they've never gotten out of first gear? Like, I want a damn horseman who's Marlboro Reds in the tunnel till it's his time out. He's probably got hands. They're like broken up leather straps. I mean, this isn't a beauty pageant, all right? This is the Masked Rider.
Get
We're
it
here
done.
to pillage.
Yes.
Get it done. I didn't even see spurs on those boots.
That makes me sad. It makes me sad. I thought it'd be faster. I thought it'd be faster. Yeah,
I mean, Chris,
right.
I don't know. I don't think you were quite there then, but you and I come from the time of a full lap, if not up on the grassy knoll. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
It's just a whole nother ball game there. This thing is supposed to be cool, awesome, or maybe even badass, even not a bubble wrap demonstration.
I'm betting on the Centennial Champion. I think we'll come around. I think we'll continue to get better.
All right.
I think this is if these are midterms, we've got some ways to go. Okay. So we'll give a final grade after that Oklahoma game and see.
I'm
how
dying
we
on this hill,
semester.
Man. After this season, I'm dying on this hill. That reins in the mouth, double guns up, badass all the way down the field should not be outlawed. That should be the only requirement. The only requirement to actually be that person. I don't care if it's the same guy every year. Maybe it's time to give up on these students. Where's Joe Kirk Fulton? Is he still out there? He now do it up to Gator Bowl once upon a time. That's enough, surely, from me, is what I can hear the audience saying right now. So let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining us again on Locked On Texas Tech, and we hope that you'll make Locked On Sports Today your second listen after Locked On Texas Tech right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And if you haven't seen it yet, if you were subscribed, you wouldn't have missed it. We've got conversation bonus episode right now up on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts with your submissions from the YouTube comments. Couple of questions, couple of statements, just some interesting IV analysis as well provided on that program. So check it out if you've missed it. If you're subscribed, you wouldn't have. It's a bonus episode, the mailbag there up right now on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Chris, see you on the other side, man. Thanks for the time as always.
Absolutely, man. Keep hope alive, people.
You got it. And subscribe on YouTube if you haven't yet, or anywhere you get podcasts, and be right back here for another episode tomorrow on Locked On Texas Tech.